guys, welcome back for our subscribers and welcome to our new viewers. I'm LaRita, and today I'm going to be reacting to a video that CNBC put out. They have a series called Millennial Money, and they usually have pretty interesting topics. This past week they did a topic about the pay wage gap as it applied to Black Americans. So I was like, let's look into that. So I'm going to go ahead and do a reaction to the video. So let's hop right into it.
My whole life I've been a team player, so I was excited to be a part of something new and to learn. Unfortunately, I was not invested in the same way that my white employees were, but it's just kind of interesting to see how things played out and who got the most out of this summer. I can assure you it's not the Black people who spoke up about it. That you can put in there. Just that.
Black employment in America is in a state of crisis. According to Citi, failure to address racial gaps between Black and white Americans has cost the U.S. economy up to $16 trillion over the past 20 years. The Black wage gap alone accounts for $2.7 trillion of that. And while companies work to rectify these inequities, real-time data shows the gravity of the problem. Black women and Black men are paid 63 cents and 71 cents respectively for every dollar paid to white men. And research shows that over a 40-year career, Black women are slated to lose $964,000.
Wait a minute. Pay me my money in cash. All right, let's keep watching. I'm being silly. That's crazy though. That's almost $1 million less than someone else. All right, you got some explaining to do. Let's keep watching though. We're only a minute in.
Due to the pay gap. The gap is even more severe for Native American women and Latinas. And the pay disparity only worsens as education level increases.
Wait, so y'all basically con people into thinking that you need to get higher degrees, and then as you get higher up, you still make less money? What is my motivation at this point? All right, let's keep watching.
Female doctorate degree holders are slated to lose a staggering $1.9 million over a 40-year career. Take Ryan Walker Hartshorn, a third-generation Stanford graduate with big dreams. Ryan first made headlines in June of 2020, but her story starts much earlier.
I was a collegiate athlete, had a career-ending injury, so didn't really have a plan. I was very interested in writing and media. And so, I really needed an entry-level job just to get some experience working.
Soon after, she found a dream opportunity to work as an assistant to Adam Rappaport, the editor.
So she's probably Stanford, maybe right out of undergrad at a big publisher like that, maybe like 50,000 to start. I don't know. Let's see.
In chief of Bon Appetit magazine.
I got what I felt was like a dream position for me, to be working at a large media company under like Vogue, Teen Vogue, Vanity Fair, New Yorker. Just like seemed like endless possibilities for me.
While Ryan had her sights set on a future at Condé Nast, she also had to face an unsettling reality.
The first interview I went into, they brought me to the floor, and I was just like, well, this is white, but cool, nothing I've not seen. I went to Stanford and like all white schools my whole life, so I can handle this.
Ryan says her offer was roughly $35,000 a year, with an opportunity to make up to $50,000.
Wait, what year is this? I mean, Stanford ain't cheap. So when you talk about return on your investments, paying a certain amount of tuition, coming out from an Ivy League school, and then making $35,000, I'm gonna keep watching. Let's see. And, you can do overtime. You get up to 50. Okay. Work harder. So this is what I'm talking about. Sorry. Sometimes you gotta work twice as hard to get half as much. That is frustrating. And this is what I talk to my daughter about, talk to my son as he's growing up. Like, that's frustrating that she has these credentials and still is having problems in as far as there's a pay gap wage, like a disparity. Like, why? Let's watch. I don't know if this is good for my psyche. Let's keep watching.
For me, because I was like, hell yeah, I'm out of college. I'll make a lot of money in overtime and I'll be able to make ends meet. And like, that's what people do in New York City.
In New York, too.
While Ryan's salary was low, she was still motivated by an opportunity to produce diverse content at an established brand. So in 2018, she pitched a story centered on Black-owned restaurants in her hometown of Oakland, California, for Bon Appetit series, Big Fat Weekend.
That's cool. Trace and I, this is a shameless plug. Trace and I just did a video about Black Restaurant Week for here in Houston. So check that out if you haven't already checked it out. All right, back to her, actually. Her few food reviews. I thought that was a nice time to plug our videos.
Who did so well, she was asked to write another one, this time in Washington, D.C.
So Tracy and I both went to law school in DC, so that's like our stomping grounds from 2008 till I left there about 2014. So I know a little something about DC area. Let's see what she did there.
She received pushback for requesting pay for overtime hours on several occasions, including for the DC story.
And after all of that, my editor told me that she had never experienced that type of pushback or had to ever fight so hard for a budget.
All my life, I had to fight. Really? Like, okay, first of all, you paid her $35,000 and then say she can get work overtime and get to $50,000. And then when she does work overtime, you give her pushback about it? Hey, maybe I should give her my card. Okay, let's keep watching.
There's so many hours that we haven't filed because it was just like too much for us to go through.
Ryan also says she struggled to receive a promotion at Bon Appetit after nearly 3 years, while her two predecessors moved up in the brand after an average of 2.5 years on the job. Both former assistants are white. With a growing collection of writing samples, Ryan expected to follow their trajectory, but says she was lacking one important ingredient: support from her boss.
After my article had performed well.
That's real, because people say people don't leave organizations, they leave bad managers. You ever heard of that saying? So that could be the case too. Let's see what her issue was with her managers.
This is a great opportunity for me to bring it up to my boss about, taking on maybe more responsibility and storytelling. And then in this meeting with my boss, I was told that those contributions were like bare minimum and what was expected of me, and I wasn't doing anything extraordinary out of my job description, and that basically no.
Ryan's struggle to move up within her company is not unique.
Okay, 100 years, really? So that brings me back to that illustration of somebody saying why do we need certain things in place, like affirmative action and things like that? It's because the race has started already. Oh yeah, now you guys can start running in this race. It's going to take 100 years for them to catch up. How is that? Let's keep watching.
I've ever been promoted when I was in a company. I have held senior recruiter, senior sourcer positions. Not because I got promoted from already being in the job. That was because that specific company and recruiter reached out to me based on my background. I do know that a couple of my counterparts that were not reflective of my demographic specifically were promoted internally, whether they were there for short.
That's a nice way of saying it wasn't black. Good job, Rhett. It seems like you know how to speak corporate code. All right, let's keep watching.
Or maybe a little bit longer, but they were promoted, and I was never, ever reached out to about potentially being evaluated for promotion.
According to McKinsey, Black employees are 23% less likely to feel like they have a lot of support at their company. Further, Black employees are 41% less likely to feel promotions are fair.
I think the reason why there is a challenge for underrepresented professionals to be promoted into higher positions, it goes back to the fact that they're not reflective at those leadership and managerial levels.
Representation matters, right? So they're not reflected in those hiring positions. Not to say that someone of a different race can't make a sound decision and hire someone who's not the same race as them, but I think that if you see someone that looks like you, may inspire you to try to go to those levels. And then those people in those leadership positions also are looking to try to maintain some kind of diversity. So not that they give you a pass, but they understand like this is how you keep things going. If you're in a position, you reach back and help other people. That's how I see it.
Especially within tech. Now, I can't speak for other industries specifically.
Today, Black professionals in the U.S. private sector make up 12% of the entry-level workforce and just 7% of the managerial workforce. When looking at the senior manager, VP, and SVP level, that number drops to 4 and 5%. At Fortune 500 firms specifically, less than 1% of CEOs are Black.
I saw recently some, I guess, panel about how to improve Black people I'm in the legal field, as I mentioned, in the partner space, because there are not a lot of Black partners at these companies, at these law firms. So trying to increase that number, because I'm sure they're qualified people. How do you increase that number? So I can understand these numbers.
In 2019, Harvard Business Review reported that managers promote employees they personally identify with, creating another ceiling for underrepresented employees of color.
Black workers, on average, are not being hired, promoted, or paid according to their level of productivity based on their experience or their education. Even if these discriminatory patterns are not, quote unquote, intentional, people's networks, the folks that you know, the schools that you go to recruit from, all factor into who gets an opportunity to be employed.
So your network is your net worth, right? So if you don't have access to certain networks, it can affect how much money you can make and how much money you'll make in the future. That's a big deal. So even if you didn't necessarily grow up or go to schools, LinkedIn is available. Like you can connect with people that you are not normally going to be, in proximity with through the internet and try to make those connections, because otherwise your net worth is not going to keep increasing.
For employees like Ryan, the COVID-19 pandemic was the tipping point.
One of the things that we've heard about over a long period of time is that African Americans are the last hired and the first fired. And this is something that actually this year during the pandemic, we saw that initially a lot of African Americans lost their jobs. And then as the economy has been recovering slowly, that they have been getting their jobs at a later rate than others.
Ryan was able to keep her job at Bon Appetit when the pandemic hit, but she still found herself at a loss. While Condé Nast cut overtime hours across the company, Ryan says she was hit especially hard because of her low salary.
I was able to get a little bit to make ends meet, but then I started to get behind on my rent, actually. And then protesting happened. I think that really set me off.
Ryan started filing complaints about her boss as early as 2019. She even told HR about an incident where she says Rappaport asked her to make his coffee the color of Rihanna. But following the George Floyd...
Look at my face. All right, let's move on.
Protest in the summer of 2020, Ryan went public with her challenges. And she wasn't the only Bon Appetit employee to air her grievances. But things escalated when a racially insensitive photo of Rappaport and his wife was posted on Twitter by food writer Tammy Tekla-Mariam. The 2004 photo was originally posted on Instagram by Rappaport's wife. It has since been deleted. On June 9th, one day after Tekla-Mariam's tweet, Adam Rappaport, Bon Appetit's editor-in-chief of 10 years, stepped down.
I think all of that really enraged a lot of people, and it happened during the summer, which was very tumultuous for a lot of reasons. That's kind of, I think, what led to their stepping down. However, the events that followed really disappointed me.
Things did not get better for Ryan at Condé Nast. The company reportedly offered her an interim editorial assistant position in an effort to get her to stay. It wasn't enough. Ultimately, Ryan decided to quit in August of 2020, making her ineligible for unemployment.
I was very stressed that I had made the wrong decision, especially during.
See, that is crazy. Like, you quit a situation. Tracy's an employment lawyer. Look her up. Because you quit someplace because of the working environment, and then it disqualifies you from having any unemployment benefits because, like, you voluntarily left. But it's like, I felt like I had no choice. Is that still involuntary? I guess legally it is. But if you talk about discrimination and things of that nature, hostile work environment, Tracy can talk to this lady.
But there's like a boundary or a limit, and that boundary was reached for me, and I decided to make a decision about it. So now I'm living with that decision.
Ryan's negative experience is similar to that of many Black employees who feel forced out of the workplace.
A number of surveys have found that people of color, African Americans in particular, and women find those environments to be incredibly hostile. So even when you have the credentials to do those jobs, often the environment is not conducive to one's mental health or productivity in those occupations.
Former Facebook recruiter Rhett Lindsay says he also struggled to find an inclusive culture at a majority white company.
When I was at Facebook, there was one meeting I had where we were focusing on diversity outreach. And I kid you not, they were playing a song and it had the N-word repeatedly playing over and over.
That's real diverse. They're like, we relate. See? Play the song. Play the song.
It was uncensored. I found that to be the last straw for me in terms of the disconnect and the lack of awareness.
Following the George Floyd protests, large companies across the U.S. tried to rectify their shortcomings by setting diversity targets. In August of 2020, Condé Nast announced award-winning publishing executive Don Davis as the new editor-in-chief of Bon Appetit magazine.
I am very pleased to see that they hired a really incredible Black woman to run the magazine. However, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many Black people you hire. There's no actual support or infrastructure behind the diversity and inclusion initiatives at a corporate level within the company.
In a statement
that I just did a video about top law school and UC Irvine and USC are doing some kind of race in the law and race in the legal profession, but just that was their way of trying to have a diversity, inclusive environment. And it was a step in the right direction. And a lot of companies have like diversity initiatives, but like, how does it really like play out in the everyday life? I don't know.
CNBC Makeit, a Bon Appetit spokesperson, said, with new leadership in place, a healthy and rewarding workplace culture built on inclusivity, respect, diversity, and equality continues to be our top priority. CNBC Makeit reached out to Adam Rappaport, but he did not respond to multiple requests for comment. Facebook also tried to improve its diversity efforts by promoting Chief Diversity Officer Maxine Williams in the summer of 2020.
And it felt very convenient that it happened around the Black Lives Matter protests and the injustices that were happening in our society when this woman does an amazing job and she's been part of this organization for much longer.
Experts are wary about whether public displays of solidarity will actually lead to lasting change.
It's not enough just to put a black square on, your Instagram page. You have to do more. You actually have to take concrete steps to actually create these pathways for people to experience upward mobility.
And inclusivity is often the missing piece to making those changes, with recruiters lacking awareness around hiring biases and practices at their firms.
This year, some recruiter reached out to me and offered a job at a firm, and she was like, it's for a lateral attorney position, and it was a non-partnership track, and it was for like about the same money as I'm making now, and I work in the government industry. So I was like, This is how the Black community is gypped out of partnership opportunities. That's why you see lack of Black people in the partnership opportunities, because these people are offering these low ball positions, non-partner track positions to minorities. And I was offended she even thought that I would consider. I was like, did you do your homework? First of all, I've been out of law school for 10 years. Let's be clear. And second of all, if I work in the government industry, which is known to be paid less than the private industry, you better don't come to me with an offer that's going to be less than or equal to what I'm getting paid now. I'm going to do more work, and you're not going to let me have equity sharing abilities. Why is this of interest to me? And I'm going to be an at-will employee, so I can get fired anytime. Please tell me why this is of interest to me. Anyway, let's continue.
There was several instances where whenever there's a hire made from a diverse talent, and a lot of times it was Black professionals, they would celebrate what they would call wins by popping champagne bottles, toasting, being the only Black male within my direct org, and I'm seeing my counterparts who are majority Caucasian celebrating and toasting. That's really strange to me, and it made me very uncomfortable. And it goes back to slavery of the competitiveness of bidding on a slave based on their skill sets and their attributes, their physical attributes, and whoever gets it, that owner is happy. And I'm not saying that that's the mindset of these companies. I know it's not, but that's what's reflective when you don't have the inclusion piece, and someone like myself that doesn't feel included. That's what we think. That's what we visualize.
Ryan and Rhett's negative experiences as Black employees in primarily white workplaces are all too common. When things continue to go unchecked, federal agencies like the EEOC are meant to provide protection. In 2019, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission received nearly 24,000 race-related discrimination charges, making up 33% of charges filed that year. About 80% of those charges were filed by Black employees. But
80%? Okay, so I mentioned before, Tracy does employment discrimination, so she's familiar with EEOC cases. 80%. Black people make up 13% of the population, and they make up 80% of the EEOC claims. Do the math, people.
EEOC has reportedly experienced severe cuts to their own resources and staff. Between 1980 and 2018, the EEOC staff numbers fell from 3,390 to 1,968. During that same time period, the U.S. population grew by 44%, which might explain why the EEOC struggles to resolve most of the charges filed with the agency.
The percentage of ones where we said, we found cause to believe that there was discrimination, the percentage is not very high. Basically, it's topped out around 20%. And that's because we get so many charges.
Right. It's almost like, okay, it might be, but then we don't really have enough people to really investigate it further. So out of those 80% of people, some people's cases might not really be fully investigated because of lack of manpower.
Go work for them.
When Rhett left Facebook following a string of incidents, he used his recruiting experience to work towards a solution.
I was talking with my husband, and I was like, I think I should look for another job. I think it's time for me to just, find another opportunity. And he said, no, because you're going to go to another company, and it's going to be the same situation where you're not feeling the inclusion piece. And so I was really trying to strategize
He about to make his own table. When there's no seat at the table for you, what do people end up doing? Making their own table. What you do? Let me see.
That people of all shades, all demographics have the same opportunities.
Rhett's application See Me utilizes anonymity with the goal of eliminating bias in the hiring process. Candidate profiles will only display initials to protect against name bias, and photos will be hidden when employees are matched for a role. As a former...
That's like a dating app, right? The app industry is like booming, but that's kind of a cool concept. Let's see.
Recruiter, Rhett hopes his app will address company shortcomings when diversifying their talent.
I think the idea that it's a pipeline issue is absolutely incorrect. It's not a pipeline issue. The talent is out there. But here's where the problem falls. See, companies like to identify cultural fit. They not only are marketing that culture out, which automatically eliminates people to even want to engage and apply to that role or company. And then they're also evaluating who they are interviewing to make sure that they fit into this cultural fit idea that they've established. So it shouldn't be about cultural fit. It should be about cultural add, cultural bonus.
A Facebook spokesperson told Makeit, "We're focused on diversity and inclusivity, as well as advancing racial justice, both in our own workplace as well as in how we recruit candidates to work here." Facebook denied allegations that they assessed for.
I like when they put the statements out. I like even better when they actually do what they say they're going to do.
Cultural fit during the interview process. The company did not address the song incident from the recruitment meeting or the celebratory champagne toast for diverse hires. In 2019, companies that were in the top quartile for ethnic diversity were 36% more likely to have above average profitability than those in the bottom quartile.
Across our society, it's important that we have a diversity of viewpoint and opinion and experience and knowledge so that we're really getting the best of our country and all that all communities have to offer.
As for Ryan, she is still struggling financially, but she has found.
Ryan went to Stanford. Why is she struggling financially? That's the selling people the pipe dreams that, you go to the Ivy League school, you set for life. Doesn't sound like Ryan is set. And she's a third generation like her parents went there, her grandparents. Why?
Opportunities to share her story with much larger audiences. In March of 2021, it was announced that Ryan would be assisting with an HBO Max show about a young group of assistants dismantling a toxic media corporation.
Right now I'm freelancing, writing, looking for jobs, just trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. I hope that more people speak up about their experiences. And I think the more people speak up about it, the stronger our voices will be collectively.
I hope you do well, Ryan. Reach out to Tracy, though. Reach out to Tracy because it sounds like you might have some room to do. And I think that was smart of her to actually do this interview because it exposes her, even if they're not paying for the interview. But also it puts it out there, it makes other people who are in similar circumstances feel like, okay, we're not alone. And I think sometimes that's helpful for other people. It may just help your mental health. So I also hope she's getting some mental health therapy in the midst of it all because she's just out she's fresh out of undergrad. And it can be disheartening. You get disillusioned if that happens straight out your gate in your first real job out of undergrad. I've been in the legal practice for 10 years. And I haven't been in the private sector. I've been actually in the government sector my whole career. And I would say that I've seen more people of color in higher positions in the government sector. Not always. I know when I was even interning in the DC federal court, I've seen improvements from when I first interned where how it looked versus how it looks now as far as there's some more cultural diversity, which I'm grateful for. And hopefully we're moving in the right direction. But that was interesting. I like seeing NBC's series. Comment below. Let me know what you think about it.